everyone, TimeToGrind here, and it's that time of the year again where we not only go over our top 10 games of the year, but since we play so many dang roguelikes and roguelites, we also do an entire list of my favorite ones of those. So if you haven't already seen it, yesterday we released my personal top 10 games of the year. If you want to see all my favorite games that aren't just, in the roguelike / roguelite genre, check that video out after this. But roguelikes and roguelites are fun, and it's fun to talk about my, 10 favorite of them. And, a lot of people that might be new to the genre, especially since it's blowing up recently. So sometimes people don't know the difference between a roguelike and a roguelite. So before I begin talking about them a lot, I do just want to quickly go over how I describe them or whatever, because a roguelike game, for those of you guys that don't know, is a game based off of the original Rogue. It was a game, way back when. And so now it normally means a game has permadeath, randomized runs, lots of ability or loot or items or relics that combine and synergize with each other to make every run unique. A lot of times they have randomly generated or procedurally generated worlds. And so a roguelike is a game that has all those things and normally doesn't have out of game progression. So games like Spelunky, right? No matter how many hours you put into that game, you're not going to get any stat boosts that make you stronger. And then if a game is a roguelite with a T, it just normally means it has out of game progression or a lot of it, So good example is Rogue Legacy or Rogue Legacy 2. You got that giant skill castle tree, and the entire game's all about getting more and more powerful, kind of similar to Vampire Survivors as well. So main difference is just if it has out of game progression or not. But now that we've gotten the deep roguelike lore out of the way, I'm super excited to present to y'all my top 10 favorite roguelikes and roguelites of 2024. At number 10 on my list is Time to Strike, and I may be a little bit biased about this little busted build bullet hell roguelike, as my channel name is TimeToGrind, and this game is called Time to Strike. Get it? Hey. Also, the dev Ravenswatch also might have added the Rainbow Monstera leaf that I have in some other indie games to this game as a reference to me, since we checked it out, on the channel so much. But beyond me being a little bit biased, Time to Strike is an extremely fun kind of like micro roguelike. There's a bunch of characters and starting weapons to choose, and you have to survive wave after wave. But what's so unique about Time to Strike is the weapon modding system. Just like any other roguelike or roguelite, you find powerful weapons and abilities, but on top of that, in Time to Strike, you can also find mods that you can attach to the weapons or abilities. So maybe every time, a certain weapon pierces, it spawns a bee familiar, or, maybe one of your weapons has a bunch of extra bounces. And the crazy combination of mods plus weapons and abilities just allows you to create some absolutely bonkers builds that are just so much fun. And because of that, plus getting my own item added to the game, I did have to save a spot on the list for Time to Strike. And at number 9 on our list is Ballionaire. And Ballionaire is actually a brand new pachinko roguelike that just came out recently. So I haven't had a ton of time to sink my teeth into the game, but from what I've played, it is so much fun. Unlike some other pachinko roguelikes where you're building your deck of orbs to throw down a board, in Ballionaire, you're building the board itself. So you're constantly getting offered things like bumpers or teleporters, to keep the bouncing ball, bouncing all around the map to earn more money. Or maybe you get a bunch of food items that synergize with each other, or money items or summon items. There's so many different types of builds in the game, and every aspect of the game gives me just so much dopamine. There's several different types of boards. I haven't even checked them all out yet, and it really seems like it, keeps the replayability up, especially with the scaling difficulties on each of the maps, and it seems like there's a ton of updates planned as the game seemed to do very, very well for itself. So if you want a super unique, bouncy, kinetic kind of roguelike, Ballionaire, definitely a good pick. Number 8 on my list is Ravenswatch. Ravenswatch is what you get if you combine the kind of gameplay you get from MOBAs like Dota 2 or League of Legends with the roguelitey goodness of leveling up and getting to choose between different abilities and combining them with the crazy items you can find in that game to make for some absolutely broken builds. There's 9 different heroes that all play completely different from each other, and they're all based on old stories or folklore like the Pied Piper, Aladdin, the Monkey King, Red Riding Hood, and more. And the game is both single player and online co-op. top. And there's kind of an element of meta progression as you play. You level up your heroes, and that allows you to find even more of their abilities and talents and run, and the gameplay is just so dang smooth. And the game is very polished, and so if you're someone that likes this type of gameplay, you play a lot of MOBAs, you know, I played almost 1,000 hours of Dota 2 as a kid, kind of regret it, but you know, I like the gameplay, you know, and so if you're someone that likes that type of stuff, or just want to play, you know, with some friends on a very polished roguelike or a roguelite, there's a little bit of meta progression, Ravenswatch is definitely a fun experience, and it's made from the devs that made another dope roguelite, Curse of the Dead Gods. And at number 7, we have another absolutely amazing single player or online co-op roguelike, Inkbound. Unlike Ravenswatch, however, Inkbound is a turn-based tactical roguelike. Even though it's a turn-based game, it has a really cool system of letting players move freely and acting simultaneously in multiplayer. And there's 8 different classes that all play super different, and it's super fun seeing how broken you can get certain builds. It's also got a really good gameplay loop as you need to complete quests and level up to unlock all the different classes, and even things like cosmetics, or, you know, more items you'll find in future runs, which is really dope, especially with all the customization stuff, because you can customize your character from the start, which is fun because you can make some really funny looking characters. You know, I think we've only done 2 videos on the game, but I got a guy with like an afro and just very silly looking character. It's fun to do that, especially when it's multiplayer. And you'll, you know, in runs be upgrading your class abilities in so many different potential ways, along with getting relics that can spice everything up. And there's even kind of the auto chess like synergy system with getting multiple of the same type of upgrades get you special bonuses, and you know, it just has so much depth in this game. So if you're looking for a game to really sink your teeth into with friends or by yourself, and you want more of a turn-based experience, I really think you'll enjoy Inkbound. At number 6, we have one of the most unique roguelike experiences, and that is Rabbit and Steel. Rabbit and Steel is yet again another roguelike that can be played either single player or online multiplayer, or even local multiplayer for this game. However, this game actually changes drastically depending on if you're playing with friends or not. And that's because Rabbit and Steel is like a roguelike that emulates the MMO raiding experience. So you play as one of 10 different bunny girl classes, and you start fighting, you know, boss after boss after boss, and you're getting stronger and stronger and upgrading your abilities in certain ways and getting items, you know, all the usual roguelike goodnessy stuff, you know. But what's so unique about this game is one of the reasons it's so high on my list is because the gameplay and combat feel exactly like you're playing an MMO. It has the tab to target combat style that most MMO RPGs have, with your abilities being based around global cooldowns, effective skill usage, gear effects, and in the case of multiplayer, boss mechanics that demand teamwork. And so if you're playing single player, the game's a bit more of like a bullet hell, but if you're playing multiplayer, it has so many raid mechanics, like making you and your friends spread apart because one of you has a bomb just attached to you, or oh, everybody needs to get together because one of you's dying, and that's the raid mechanic, you know. And it's really hard to explain in words how cool it is, but it just really makes you feel like you're raiding with your friends in some intense MMO, but without all the grinding of levels to get to that part. And it has all the usual roguelike-y goodness I talked about earlier, so definitely something you need to check out if you haven't. And I've only played this game with friends and I've loved it, but I've also heard the single player experience is great as well. So just good game all around. And now halfway through our list, and at number 5, we have another smaller scale roguelike, Rollscape. Rollscape has an extremely simple premise, but executes it to such a high degree. You start out having 100 dice rolls, and you have to make it to either space 1,000 or 2,500, depending on what game mode you picked. And every dice roll you get that many tiles placed, and those tiles give you points to spend in the shop to upgrade your build, and you have to use energy to buy more rolls, and you get more energy and a ton of other crazy relics by going to several different areas in the game. So you'll get to a crossroads and have to decide which area to go several times in a run, and each area has a designated relic or two to it. So say you go to the chessboard area, at the very end of that you'll see you know, you have to make a decision between either the Black Queen relic or the White Queen relic, and it'll give you energy every 10 times you get either a dark or light tile, depending on what you picked. Or you could find the area that the devs specifically made for me, where you can find my mascot Munch, which I think he's hidden somewhere. but Munch, you can find Munch and the Rainbow Monstera Leaf because this is yet again another game that has added a reference to me or whatever. And I promise I'm not just putting Rollscape up this high because it's another game that I got a reference to me, but how freaking polished and clean the entire game is. It might not be the most complex roguelike ever, but every area has handcrafted music just for that area made by the dev. And the visuals are all so relaxing, and it's such an underrated roguelike in my opinion. Also, good time to mention that this game and literally every single game on this list, I have at least one video on my channel as like a Let's Play, and many times I have an entire Let's Play series, some of them with like hundreds of episodes. So I will include links in the description down below to, all of them if you want to see them. But either way, Rollscape is an absolute $8 gem of a game, and the dev even just recently added Endless Mode which added so much replayability, along with even more plans for more content in the future. So you definitely gotta check it out. Number 4 on my list is Spiritfall, and Spiritfall is what you would get if you combined Super Smash Bros. And Hades. And considering both of those games are absolutely legendary, the finished product is absolutely fire. So as you'd expect, Spiritfall is a platform fighting roguelite that first off has some absolutely amazing gameplay. I've played literally thousands of hours of Smash Bros. In my life between Brawl as a kid and then going back and playing Melee and playing a bunch of 4 and Ultimate, and I can say when I use my GameCube controller in Spiritfall, it really feels like I'm just playing Smash, and that is a very good thing. And there's a ton of different weapons to choose from, all with alternate styles, tons of unlockable masks themed around all the different spirits that can bless you in runs, and a lot of meta progression. So if you like roguelites with a ton of meta progression, you'll definitely like this game. But just like Hades, as you progress through the levels in a run, you can get blessed by tons of different spirits like, the Ice Bear or the Fire Phoenix spirits, and get ton of unique skills or upgrade your skills with the powers that you get. And there's synergy skills, and there's secrets, and there's shops and items, and the game has a lot of content in it. And beyond that, there's not much else to say. It's just a banger platform fighter roguelike with all the best roguelitey parts from Hades, and it just makes for a very, very fun game, especially if you are into platform fighters as much as I am. And at number 3 on my list, we have a game that has technically been out for several years in early access, but finally came out officially this year, and that is Nova Drift. Nova Drift is easily one of my favorite roguelikes of all time, and if you're looking for a spaceship shooter roguelike in particular, I literally don't think there's a better choice than Nova Drift. It's been an absolute labor of love over the years, and it's got hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of replayability between tons of different spaceship types, randomized enemy formations and waves, and millions of different combinations of crazy builds, ranging from homing rocket launcher builds to speedy crash into people builds where you just smash into enemies at the speed of light, or railgun builds. I mean, there's just the drone builds. There's so many different combinations and builds in this game. And the music and art, especially like the galaxy and space backgrounds, are so freaking atmospheric. And the game is really just simply put the literal best action space combat roguelike on the market, hands down. There's literally nothing better in this genre than Nova Drift, and I will absolutely stand by that statement until something comes and changes my mind, which is why I had to put it at number 3 on my list. We also have over 50 videos on this game over the last couple years. Wink, 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 wink. And at number 2 on my list is Peglin. And I know those of you guys that are fans of my channel were absolutely expecting this, but Peglin is another pachinko roguelike with cute little goblin characters. And after being in early access for a couple of years and finally launching this year, it has so much depth and content to sink your teeth into. So much so that I have released over 300 videos on this game so far. And it's actually one of the first ever games besides Brotato that added my my rainbow monstera leaf as a reference to me in the game. So it's the opposite of Ballionaire, where instead of adding things to the board, you can get several different orbs to use in the Peglin-like boards to rack up damage and kill your enemies. There's also so many unique relics to supplement the orbs to help you create some incredibly fun builds, like bomb builds, poison builds, crit builds, non-crit builds, multi-ball builds, slime builds, and everything in between. There's also several different classes to unlock, 20 levels of Crucible difficulty, or Ascensions as it's called in other roguelikes, for each class. And a lot of people think this game has way too much RNG with the pachinko ball bouncing gameplay. And although it does have a bit more RNG than other roguelikes, if you know what you're doing, you really can get good. And it's just so satisfying to murder enemies by throwing little balls in a pachinko machine. I love this game to death. I even got, all the plushies. There's and I think there's another one that's coming in the mail, and it's a current staple series on my channel still. So if you've never checked out this game, you definitely need to. And before we get to my #1 favorite roguelike or roguelite of 2024, I want to go over a couple of quick honorable mentions. Slice and Dice is probably one of the best dice building roguelikes of all time, and it's been out for several years, but this year it got its Steam release with a huge 3.0 update that was absolutely incredible. Wild Bastards is the spiritual successor to Void Bastards and combines heart-pounding FPS gameplay with more tactical mod management style gameplay and some amazing characters to create something really, really cool. And Genome Guardian is a roguelite where you create a microscopic turret by combining different strands of DNA to create some super fun weapons. And it's just so cool to discover what all the different combinations of DNA make in the game. But without further ado, let's get to my #1 roguelike or roguelite of 2024. And #1 on my list is Balatro, or however you pronounce it. And if you're a fan of roguelikes, even in the slightest, I know you guys have heard of Balatro or know someone that is addicted to it, but Balatro is a poker roguelike that is so simple to learn, but it is incredibly addicting. It's all about getting insane and even illegal poker hands thanks to game-changing and game-breaking jokers and combos, and the way everything is presented, it just has so much replayability. Between tons of different starting decks, an insane amount of unlockable jokers, and difficulty levels on the starting decks, and a super hypnotizing art style and soundtrack, Balatro is just one of those games that anyone can play and get addicted to. And just like some other games in the past like Hades, Slay the Spire, or Binding of Isaac, I truly think Balatro will be remembered as one of the best roguelikes of all time. It's got such a simple premise, but it executes it perfectly, and the fact that it's now on mobile is insane, and I fear for all of our productivity. But there you have it, my top 10 favorite roguelike and roguelite games of 2024. This year has been insane for the genre, and it seems like roguelikes just keep getting more and more popular as every new game nowadays, even some AAA games, are getting tacked on roguelike modes, and everyone is starting to realize just how dang good roguelikes can be. And I know there's so many roguelikes that I haven't even checked out this year, so if I missed out on any of them, definitely let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know what some of your favorite roguelikes were, or even ones, even if they didn't come out this year, what have you been playing this year, And like I said earlier, if you want to see my videos/series on any of the games on this list, I've made content on everything here, so just check the description. Also, if you want to see the top 10 games of the year overall, not just roguelikes, then check out that video as well. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm super hyped for all the new games coming in 2025, and consider subscribing and ringing that bell like all the big boy YouTubers say for all the other awesome content we got coming out in the next year. And no matter what you're going to be playing or grinding next, I wish you guys luck, and I'll see you all next time.